Welcome to the Client Generation Podcast, a show where we interview some of the most successful people in real estate to help you understand how to generate leads, build a brand, and convert more clients in your business. What's up, everybody? Grant Wise here. Welcome to the Client Generation Podcast. I'm excited today to be joined by the one and only Mr. Kyle Draper. We're going to have an epic conversation, and I am sure you are going to take a ton of value away from it. So, Kyle, thanks for joining me on the show.
Yeah, Grant, I'm pumped to be here, man.
That's awesome. Well, let's dive in, man. Tell us your story. Who are you and how did you get to where you are today?
Bro, it's a wildly boring story that I will share in a very short amount of time. Man, long story short, I was a pastor for almost 10 years in my 20s, left the church ministry and jumped into entrepreneurship. Not a clue what I was doing. We started a roofing company, me and my dad and my brother. And I was over all of sales and marketing, which was really stupid for a guy that had never done sales and never done marketing. And so, man, I just cut my teeth at all of that stuff. I started learning social media. And during that time, I started connecting with realtors because I've decided that, man, realtors, they're kind of like the gatekeeper to every roof. And so I just started loving all realtors. Well, through that, I got out of roofing 3 years later, started a company building websites for real estate agents. And that was when I realized, man, realtors are terrible at social media. They're terrible at it. And so for me, man, because I grew up preaching all the time, I was a good communicator. And so I started reading books, watching videos, listening to podcasts, learning how to do social media well. And really at that time, Facebook. And I just started teaching classes to realtors with the hopes of getting them to like me enough so that I could go, want to buy a website? Right. And that was my goal. And dude, fast forward, now we're almost 3.5 years in to me doing full-time speaking, coaching, teaching, equipping on all things organic social media, video marketing. And man, that's it, man. That's the story.
I love it. You got thrown into sales because you were the one that could talk good, right? It sounds like.
Yeah, that's right. I could talk. And so default, that was me.
There we go, man. I love it. Why are realtors so bad at social media? Why do we think that most of them don't have it figured out yet?
Yeah, man. It's so simple. At every company across the country, I guess I can't use an absolute like that. In most situations, companies teach agents to sell. And so they equip them with scripting and the ability to fight through quitting points and tackle the no. And then at the end of all that, they're kind of asked to, hey, look over there, see all of that shiny objects inside of Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. That is now an extension of where you can sell. That's the way I feel like they're taught inside of the industry. So social media from day one is never looked at as an extension of relationship. It's looked at as an extension of sales opportunity, which is why most realtors spend all their time sharing new listings, posting their closing photos, bragging about the numbers they closed that quarter. And then they wonder why they're not getting success from this place that people everywhere are saying is where they should be finding success. And so I just think it's a mindset thing. When we can help realtors go, man, go add value there and watch people show up to you in droves. It's a game changer. And so I really think it just comes down to just not being taught properly how to do it from the get-go.
I think realtors hear that every day. Add value, add value, add value, add value, add value. What does that mean? Like, what do you mean when you say go add value? What do I do?
Yeah, man. And so that's a great question. And I think it's so much bigger than we typically look at it. And I think this is why realtors struggle, because they hear add value, but they can't get it through the filter beyond real estate. So in their minds, they get stuck in, man, how do I add value inside of real estate? And what I've learned and what I do in my business and what I coach and teach others to do is, man, what can we do outside of real estate to create value in people's lives. If you know, for example, if a realtor loves first-time home buyers, and so we can begin to go, okay, how old is the average first-time home buyer? What does that look like? They have like 1.1 kids. They have, one or two dogs. They have a cat. And so what season of life are these people in? How can we create value for them outside of just helping them buy or sell something, right? So for example, super simple, bro. I love taking books. I have books all over. For people listening on the podcast, you can't see it, but like I've got books behind me. I think I have 8 books. Nope. I see 4 more behind my computer. I have 12 books on my desk right now that I'm just constantly thumbing through, looking for inspiration from. And so one of the things that I'll do and that I teach realtors to do is when you're struggling for content, just open up a book you've read, find a page where you underlined it or wrote something in the margin, and then jump on video and become a living cliff note of that book. And just go, guys, I just got to stop. I know it's Thursday afternoon and you're probably working, but man, this made an impact on me. And I just want to share this story real quick. Bro, we completely underestimate how much real estate can be transacted without always having to talk about real estate. And so that's kind of the way that I begin to steer people to see value in a unique perspective.
To see it as something that has nothing to do with real estate. Like, I think that is so important. A lot of agents, social media, at least from what I see, social media is a box to check. It's not something that people prioritize. They're just like, okay, well, everybody's saying I got to do it. So, I better wake up today and get my social media done. And They're not necessarily looking at it as this incredible tool for building and nurturing relationships like you're talking about. I totally agree with you that, we're almost taught to just look at it as this transacting software. But from an industry standpoint, this is a relationship-based industry. Like if you're not building relationships, you're not building a business. And I, can't tell you how much content I create that has nothing to do with real estate. Maybe it's got to do with life, or it's got to do with working out, or, you've probably seen me, making these grimacing faces over here. I have a rib that is out and I'm having a hard time breathing. And so,
oh man,
even just creating content about stuff like that. It's amazing how much that, I guess, like your life is the content, like your life is the value. You're so unique and you have, this unique fingerprint, this unique mindset, this unique lifestyle that you live. And most realtors don't believe that that's fascinating in any way, shape, or form. But when you're building relationships with people, like those commonalities and those common interests seem to be the sticking point. And I like you. Let's take this relationship further. And ultimately that leads to a home maybe being sold.
Well, and Grant, that's exactly the way sales was done before the internet showed up, right? If you and I, back in the 80s, if we're sitting across the table from one another, if I'm trying to sell you something, in the back of my mind, I'm going, how quickly can I relate to him? Right? Maybe I say something about Baylor University and you're like, what? No way. I went to Oklahoma State and now we're both in the Big 12, right? Like, and as random as that is, that could be what ends up making us like each other more because we passed through the surface level and got a little bit deeper. You talk about your rib injury. Anybody that's ever had an injury can instantly go, oh, dude, I feel you, bro. That sucks. It's debilitating. You can't move your arm above your head. You can't bend over to pick anything up. And as dumb as it seems, that could bring you your next batch of business because somebody related to you and commented on a post and go, dude, I broke a rib in college and it was awful. Instantly, you created relatability. And that's, in my opinion, how we sell more. But dude, even more importantly, how we get more referrals. I think realtors are too busy trying to sell the next deal instead of set up the next referral. And if we focused more on the referral piece, especially on social media, it's a game changer for the attraction marketing that can take place.
Why is it attraction marketing? What makes it to where you're attracting people to your business or brand?
I think that there's probably a million ways to describe it. I definitely didn't invent it. I think it's doing anything that allows people to see something in you that they see in themselves, or see something in you that they want for themselves. And so, man, I think attraction marketing happens in the words we say. It happens in the clothes we wear. It happens in your grimacing, right? Like the grimace that you just made, right? Like that's all that this is all embodied in attraction marketing, right?
Mm.
And you're showcasing to people right now that, like, guys, I am in pain, but I'm here to add value, right? Like
Right.
you're telling your piece to this attraction marketing, because we could have rescheduled this, right?
Yeah.
You could have already been on your way to the doctor, hugging your pillow that helps you not breathe in too deep or whatever that, but you're here. And so I think anything we do that gets outside of, here's my listing, here's me at a showing, here's a video walkthrough of a property, when we can get deeper than that on any level, now we're creating attraction marketing, or what I also like to call passive branding, in the way we portray ourselves on social media. And I don't have it right now, but we just moved into a new house. I'm in a new home office, and so my office is trashed. But I usually have a framed jersey of Ray Lewis that goes on the wall right behind me. And I can't tell you the amount of conversations that started. And clients it's ended up turning into, simply because they're like, ugh, Baltimore Ravens, or yeah, Baltimore Ravens. It's crazy, man. You and I already had a conversation about the wood panel behind you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most ridiculous of things that can cause attraction to take place between two people. We just have to be willing to put it out there.
This creates what feels like an oversimplification of how to use social media. It's like, well, you maybe stop thinking about using it just to get business and start thinking about it to, create relationships and just have interactions with people and, just be a human being. And like, that's what's going to help you attract the type of people that you actually want to work with. I mean, every single person on the planet has a brand, right? Every single person
100%.
has something about them that is an attractant to other people. And so what you're describing here in the way that you teach people to think about social media sounds so simple.
Dude, it is ridiculously simple. I told a group of realtors yesterday, if y'all would do what I say, I won't have a job, because what I teach is not rocket science. It's not. But I said, thank you for not doing what I say, so that I can continue to have an opportunity to make some money. Because it really is, man. It's not. And isn't that our goal as the expert of anything? Shouldn't a realtor be able to break down the buying process for a potential buyer in such a simple way that they think they can do it?
Right.
Even though they probably
at the end of the day, there's some presentations that I get in with Whitley where we're talking about how it automates the ads. And the presentation, I literally just did this yesterday. We were talking about building recruiting ads for brokers. And my part of the presentation, it was an hour call, was like 10 minutes. I was like, well, I'm sorry that's not more complex, but that's how it works. Like, everybody's kind of like, wait, I want more. Tell me more. I'm like, there's nothing else. Like it's that easy. Like we just make it easy like that. I agree with what you're saying.
Can I tell you why I think this is? This is what I think. We want it to be complicated so I can continue to have excuses for why I don't do it.
Yeah.
Bro, the moment you make ads simple, now I have to look myself in the mirror and go, what the heck, man? Why am I dropping the ball? But if you can keep being complicated, that I can go, well, duh, of course I'm not doing it. Grant's way smarter than me. And if it's hard for him, then now I've got built-in excuses. And dude, that's what I fight through when I teach this every day, is people that, they're like, man, this was great, but like, what's the best mic I should get? And I'm like, dude, that's not the next question. You're just looking for like, oh, well, that's too expensive. I guess I'll start doing video in a year when I can afford that mic. We're just looking for reasons not to move forward. And we got to push through that.
Execution's the game. I mean, it really doesn't matter what you know, it matters what you do.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't agree more. What What do you think it is about the perspective of agents and social media? I get the transactionally based mindset that we're kind of being fed, but especially like let's take the market today. Everybody's slammed because they're working 3 times harder, 4 times harder than they normally would because of the inventory crisis.
Yeah.
What is it you think that is preventing people from moving forward when maybe they know what to do and they're just not doing it? Is it a lack of priority? Is it a lack of operational, having the right systems and process? Like, what is it that's keeping people that know what to do from moving forward, in your perspective?
I think we could blame any of them and we would be right. I don't think there's necessarily one thing, but if I had to say one thing for the sake of this is your show and that's what you asked me to do, it's mindset. It is, we have convinced ourselves that we are boring. We have allowed the whole monster that is social media and the whole, like, I'm an influencer, right? Like, we've allowed that word to just pervert everything we do. And so I think the mindset has become, I need more followers, which is complete bullcrap, because all of our clients work in a local market where they already know enough people, right? That they don't need necessarily to know more people to be more successful. They have to find better ways to stay in front of the people that already know, like, and trust them. And again, it's simplified, but it gets hard when you start doing video right now, you and I, right? I'm forced to look at myself, and I don't think I'm the best looking dude on the planet, right? I don't think I'm definitely not the most fit person on the planet. And so if I didn't have confidence, I would just go, look at this fat blob over here trying to do video, looking like an idiot, right? That's what I can think about myself. But I've trained myself to understand that my people will never see me the way I see me, right? They'll always see a better version of the version that I see. And when you understand that, we can start showing up on a more regular basis. But man, most people just can't get past what they look like, what they sound like, the fact that their life might be boring. And it's all of those things that are holding us back.
Today, do you think that being courageous enough to express that vulnerability through your social platforms can actually help you take your relationships through social media to the next level?
100%. 100%. So I'm a big fan. I learned this when I was a young pastor, that you should always verbalize what you're afraid of. And so, for example, what that looks like for me is I have a red dot that I've developed on my nose. I don't know if I'm gonna be Rudolph one day or what's going on. And so I will randomly notice it when I'm doing video. Well, it makes me insecure. And so when I notice it, Grant, I'll literally stop and go, can y'all see this? Oh my gosh, how big is this dot? And then I'll just jump back into my video. And it causes people to go, man, this is why I love Kyle, because he's just silly. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind, right? And so I'll use my moments of insecurity to say them out loud, to then take the power away. And then I'll just jump back into talking about what I talked about. I've been on stages before where I've made fun of myself for being nervous and just going, guys, you have no idea how nervous I am right now. I want to throw up. And while the room is laughing, it allows me to settle in and then confidently do what I know what I'm capable of doing. And so I think for those now, this isn't right for every personality, but when you can be a little bit self-deprecating, man, it's powerful how it cuts through the noise and allows us to be successful.
What I've thought is really interesting is that how affirming your audience is through vulnerability, and how hateful they are when you're doing the opposite, when you're being arrogant. When you look at people, that are more so arrogant and not as humble, or what people believe humility should look like, there seems to be this hater attractant. But when you're more vulnerable, you see that you start to build these deep connections with your audience. I think the most notable example of one person having it both ways here would be Rachel Hollis. She just made what I think a lot of people would claim is like a huge mistake on her social media. She used vulnerability as a tool to build this mass following. And she used arrogance to not destroy it, because I think she's pretty big time, but to really create some problems for herself, where she lost a lot of fans, lost a lot of followers, lost a lot of influence, because she kind of let what some people would call a true color come out, and it turned a lot of people off. And so I just think it's fascinating. Like, if you're paying attention to what's happening, is that, sometimes the more vulnerable you are, not that you need to be constantly sharing your problems, but people learn from your experience. So if I was going through something and I shared with people how I, went through it and then got through it, that's an experience that people can learn from. That's advice. It's wisdom. And people really love that. I mean, they just absolutely love to connect with that. Whereas using arrogance and conceitedness and those types of things can have the opposite effect. Now, both of them are likely going to grow your following, which is fascinating. I think Floyd Mayweather is a good example of this. When Floyd got started boxing, he was Pretty Boy Floyd, right? And his brand wasn't elevating at the rate that he wanted. So he dropped Pretty Boy and he picked up Money Mayweather. And then he became a little bit more eccentric. And so he's like, look, if I'm not going to be the guy that everybody wants to see win, I'm going to be the guy that everybody wants to see lose.
Yeah, man.
And then he blew up. And so I think both of them work. Everybody's going to have a different personality. Everybody's going to want to do a different thing. But when you're talking about agents that are stuck in insecurity, you've got to understand that actually it's the thing that makes you powerful. It's the thing that will help you connect better, more so than, anything else.
Well, and the underlying truth of what I hear you saying is just be yourself, right? If you look, because you talked about Mayweather, if we look at like Conor McGregor, right? This arrogant, loud, obnoxious, you know what? I believe he's being himself. And in a weird way, I like it. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm not attracted to that type of person usually, but because it truly feels authentic, I'm kind of down for it. And I've paid for every fight he's ever fought because of the persona that he carries with him. And so the cool part, Grant, about what we're talking about is, if you're truly like an arrogant prick, guess what? There's millions of other arrogant pricks out there that will absolutely love you.
Will love you to death.
And that's why I'm not trying to preach the message of like everyone should be meek and humble and mild, and because that's not everybody's personality.
Right.
And so the beauty for every realtor that listens to this podcast is there are enough people out there like you. And so just go be yourself and watch people show up to support you and want to be a part of seeing you grow.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think there's like, even used to be profiles of people that would call themselves like Mr. A-hole or, whatever. Like, people are going to like who you are. And that's what branding is or attraction marketing is you're attracting somebody to whatever persona it is that you've, kind of developed for yourself. And so I agree with you. I think McGregor is being authentic. I think he really enjoys who he is, and he's expressing that. Just the same thing with, Mayweather. Like, all of these people have found a point where it's like, I'm just going to be who I want to be. And I'm not going to be who everybody else is telling me to be. And people are going to love it or going to hate it.
And Grant, what's weird is I've paid to watch Conor get his mouth shut, and I've paid to watch him crush someone.
Yeah.
He's been the same the whole time. But I've found myself attracted to him in two different ways, right?
Yeah.
Being for him and against him. But at the same time, he made money off of me both times.
Well, and I think he learned the Mayweather lesson, because Mayweather and they were teaching each other stuff throughout that process. And, Mayweather kind of helped him learn the same lessons. Like, hey, man, people weren't cheering me on. So I just became the person they wanted to see lose. Muhammad Ali learned the same lesson. He's like, look, I'm just going to have to be as loud as possible, and I'm going to back it up. And people are going to either pay to come see me win, or they're going to pay to come see me lose. I'm going to win either way. And so I think if you're thinking about our conversations, it's got a little abstract here. But the heart of the message is if you just go out there and be yourself, you are going to attract people that are like you, that like the same things, that think the same things, believe the same things as you. Because you look at the most heinous stuff on the planet, there's still cult followings behind some of these things. So I wouldn't get too caught up in this. My hair looks bad. Like, bro, look, there's 7 billion people on the planet, and I'm sure some of their hair look bad today and they don't want to mess with it. Like, you can't get so caught up in this thing. So I agree with what you're saying, is that people they find these reasons not to.
Let me speak to that. I think this is a huge opportunity for people. Especially for like women, like, for us, like, we don't put a bunch of makeup on, like, we don't look a whole lot different, whether we're dressed up and ready for social or not. Right. But for a female, right. Give people, like, help people understand why you look the way you look. And so, for example, I was walking through our neighborhood last week and was sweating, was breathing heavy. I was listening to a podcast, and just golden nuggets were just dropping from the sky into my mind. And so I got home and thought, man, I need to jump on Instagram and just share some of these nuggets really quick. So at the beginning of the video, I told people, hey, I'm really sweaty. Hey, I'm breathing heavy. Why? I just finished working out. Right? And so now nobody's like, well, this is gross. No, like, that's what you're supposed to be like after you work out. And so I think sometimes we try to, like, trick people into, like, we want you to think what's happening isn't really what's happening. And just call it like it is, man. You have a flexible job where you can go work out at 11 a.m. because you already were working and you're going to be working later. And I think this is, people just get nervous and scared about, like, but if I show that I'm not working all day, isn't that bad? And so they're going to wait until 5 when they're back dressed up again.
Right.
And they're hurting themselves.
Well, you can also, you can really hurt yourself, to your point, by setting false expectations. Because if your social content is constantly work, what do you think is going to happen when you get a client and, it's 10 o'clock at night and then when they answer the question, well, I always see you on social media working, and hustling and doing all this other stuff. Why aren't you're setting these false expectations of what a client would experience with you. And that's also a pretty damaging thing, because you're setting yourself up for failure. No doubt. Your content can set the tone for how people will have an experience and interaction with you. And I think it's something that people just don't pay attention to. And so, dude, I definitely agree, man. Authenticity is an overused word right now, but if you can get beyond, a lot of the fluff and just get down to it, you draw yourself back to the simplicity of using social media just somewhat as a medium to create and nurture relationships, as opposed to this machine that you just pull deals out of or whatever. I think that there's certainly some misconceptions in how people can use it, and some ways that people can just make it easy. I think I was listening to Gary Vee talk. He invited us over to speak at his event, Agent 2021, in February of 2020, a couple years ago. And somebody in the crowd was like, what should I create my content about? I don't know what to talk about. And he was like, bro, anything is content. He's like, you fell off the curb and stubbed your toe. Say that. Like, that's content. Like, that's what people want to do. They want to connect with you. They want to know what's going on. It doesn't always have to be this, like, crazy, perfect, polished stuff. And COVID has given us all an opportunity just to, like, take the mask off, dude, and just be yourself, because nobody's life's perfect. Everybody's life's got turned upside down. And, putting on this perfect persona and perception that your life is great actually was very disingenuous, because that's not everybody's reality. And so I think it's never a better time to just be yourself and let that be how people create a relationship with you. Man, this is a great show. I appreciate it so much. I cut you off. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that we could literally jump on social today and put up a post that says, I didn't know what I was supposed to say on social today, but I know I'm supposed to say something. So here's a post saying nothing. And it would work. That post would get so many comments. It's literally about nothing.
It is. I was interviewing.
How simple this can be.
I was interviewing Tom Ferry for our video remarketing summit last year. And he was like, do you think the people on CNN and Fox and all of that would have as much influence if you saw them like once a week or every other month or, every 6 months? He's like, no, they have so much influence because you see them every single day. It never stops. And he's like, it doesn't matter what you're putting out there, to your point. It doesn't matter what you're putting out there. people just need to see you every day, because that's how you stay top of mind, which is what most traditional, brokerages will teach you, just in a different way. Emails, texts, calls, drop-bys. That's staying top of mind. This is just a much easier way to do it. And instead of doing it one-to-one, you're doing it one-to-many. And so this is it's such a powerful tool. And so
good.
If you're listening to this, you got to reach out to Kyle Draper and connect with him. He does some incredible work. He's helping people get incredible results, and I really appreciate you again for jumping on the show. What's the best way people could connect with you if they wanted to learn more about you?
IG, bro, at Coach Kyle Draper.
There we go. As simple as that. At Coach Kyle Draper. We'll make sure that we link that up in the show notes. Kyle, man, thanks again for coming on the show. It was very valuable. It was a great conversation today, and I was pumped to get to talk to you a little bit more. I'm looking forward to doing more of that. So thanks again.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you guys for continuing to listen to the Client Generation Podcast. Make sure you screenshot that you're listening to this episode. Tag us both in your stories. I'm at Grant Wise. He's at Kyle Draper. Let us know what your favorite part of this episode was. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Client Generation Podcast. Please make sure that you rate and review this episode so that we can continue to bring you more incredible guests to help you grow your business. Thanks, and have an amazing day.